Hi everyone, my name is Kayla Roach. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I will be demonstrating all the steps I took to build a paludarium for my dream snake. And I will be introducing you all to said snake. Just in case you don't already know, a paludarium is a type of vivarium that features both terrestrial and aquatic elements. It's pretty much a terrarium with a water feature. This type of vivarium is typically used to house semi-aquatic species or any species who might take advantage of a large water feature. I purchased this enclosure secondhand, so I gave it a thorough cleaning using the Exoterra Terrarium glass cleaner. Once the glass was dry, I measured the back of the enclosure and I cut a piece of cork tile to the appropriate size. In order to adhere the cork tile to the glass, I used a silicone that is safe for animals and waterproof once it's cured. In order to ensure that the cork tile was securely adhered to the back, I used a few dumbbells to help press it down while it dries. I then repeated the same few steps for both sides of the enclosure as well. Once the background was in place, I sealed it by running a bead of silicone around the perimeter of the cork tiles. I also decided to press some moss into the wet silicone to conceal it and give it a more natural appearance. Next, I applied some patches of moss onto the cork background using silicone in order to break up the appearance of the cork and make it look more natural. Next, I brainstormed where I wanted to put my hardscape just to get a general idea of the layout. Then I took some measurements of where I wanted the land portion to be. For the false bottom, I used metalamat, which is a type of filter media that's commonly used in ponds. This heavy-duty material will keep my land portion structurally sound while allowing water to freely pass through it. I cut a few pieces of metalamat to the appropriate size for my land portion. I stacked a few pieces of metalamat on top of one another until I reached the desired height. Then, to keep them in place, I used silicone to adhere the pieces of metalamat to the glass and to one another. Once again, I used a few weights to hold everything in place while the silicone cured. To filter the water in this paludarium, I used the Fauna Repto filter since it's designed for setups with low levels of water. Next, I used the Great Stuff Pond and Stone spray foam in order to create a retaining wall on top of the metalamat. This will help support all the soil and plants and prevent them from falling into the water. Once the spray foam had cured, I carved away that outer glossy layer and I gave it the shape I desired. In order to conceal the spray foam, I used Drylock, which is a masonry waterproofer made of cement and latex paint. Coating the retaining wall with this material will give it the appearance of a rocky outcrop, and the Drylock will also help seal the carved spray foam. After the 2 coats of Drylock had finished drying, I used a few colors of acrylic paint to add some fine details and shading in order to make it look more realistic. For the aquatic substrate, I used the fluval stratum, which is a volcanic substrate that is ideal for plant growth due to how nutrient dense it is. In addition to the volcanic substrate, I used a simple aquarium gravel to make the water portion of this build look more natural and give it a little more depth. Moving back to the land portion of this build, I used fiberglass mesh screening as a substrate barrier. For the substrate, I decided to try out the Arcadia Earth Mix. I also added some horticultural wood charcoal to the soil. I think that this is a great addition to any soil that has live plants in it. I then planted the land portion with ficus, schefflera, a China doll plant, and some little spider plants. Once the land portion was planted, I was able to carefully install some hardscape around the plants using manzanita wood, spider wood, corkwood, and more. It was now time to add water to the aquatic portion of this build. I inserted the filter with the filter media and cartridges, and I wanted to make sure it was functional, so I turned it on, and lo and behold, a beautiful, peaceful, calm stream of water emerged. I then went in with some more hardscape. These are jungle vines, which are very flexible, so I can work it around the existing hardscape, and it will give my snake more climbing opportunities since he is an arboreal species. In order to conceal the visible part of the filter, I decided to cover it with a piece of corkwood. It was now time to plant the aquatic portion of the enclosure. I decided to go with a carpeting plant so I could achieve a lawn-like effect, and I decided to use Liliopsis brasiliensis. The next step was to add the aquatic fauna to the water portion, starting with a few ram's horn snails. These reproduce very quickly, so a few will go a long way. They make very good aquarium cleaners. They keep the glass, the substrate, and any hardscape clean. Next, I added a small group of red cherry shrimps. These invertebrates have a similar role as the ram's horn snails do in keeping the aquatic environment clean. Last but not least, I included a small school of Boraris maculatus, the dwarf rasbora, which is a very small species of fish that matures to be no bigger than 1 inch in length, which makes it a perfect addition to a paludarium. Next, I added some duckweed and frogbit to the surface of the water. These are free-floating aquarium plants that spread very quickly, so a little will go a long way. Next, I dispersed some moss all over the enclosure, starting with the Zoomed frog moss, which I placed on top of the substrate on the land portion. Then I used some moss that I had been cultivating myself, and I fixed it to the hardscape all over the enclosure. Next, I placed some spider plant and pothos cuttings into the water to give the appearance of emerging plants that you would see near the river's edge. I concluded this build by adding some leaf litter and springtails to the land portion. After some time, when the paludarium was well established, the plants had rooted into the soil, and the aquatic fauna had adapted to their new environment, it was time to introduce my new snake. Introducing Reaper. Reaper is a Boega melanota. Although this species goes by multiple common names, they are most known as the mangrove snake or the gold-ringed cat snake. Boega is a large genus of rear-fanged colubrids, meaning that they do possess a mild venom, which comes in very handy when subduing their prey. These snakes are highly arboreal, meaning that they spend most of their time off the ground in the forest canopy. The mangrove snake is also a very adept swimmer. As their common name suggests, these snakes inhabit areas near bodies of water, like mangrove forests and other riverine habitats. Their other common name, the gold-ringed cat snake, refers to their large eyes with thin vertical pupils, similar to those of a cat. This feature gives them excellent vision during the nighttime, an adaptation that is seen in many nocturnal species. Although there are differences among individual specimens, for the most part, this species is known for their temperament and their defensive nature. With all that being said, this species is more of a display animal and is not suitable for the inexperienced keeper. I want to say a big thank you to Bree of Bree's Exotics and Mike Taitula of Alpha Reptile for trusting me with Reaper. Go give these two a follow on Instagram and on other socials. They're awesome. They have an incredible collection and they take incredible care of their animals. On that note, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comment section what you think of Reaper, what you think of my Paludarium build, and let me know if you have any questions. I will see you all in my next video.